Good morning. All right, um, I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Madhigita Nanda Pramudia Chandrawardhani, and everyone usually call me Gita. So, in today's presentation, I'd like to present about article summary, and then the title is Teacher-Student Relationship at University, an important yet under-researched field, written by Gerda Hagen-Nauera and Simone E. Follett, 2014. Alright, so in today's presentation, I'd like to cover 6 points. The first is about introduction about TSR. TSR is teacher-student relationship. Alright, so the second one is the methodology, and the third is the quality of TSR, and then there are three about the quality. So the first one is conceptualization and operationalization difficulties, and there are accounting for the multi-dimensionality and context dependency of TSR, and then the last one is empirical findings on the quality of TSR. Right, so the fourth topic is about the consequence of TSR on students and teachers, that is include of TSR and university students. And the fifth topic is about the development of TSR based on interactions. And the last one is discussion and conclusion. Right. Let's begin with the introduction about TSR. So, what is this topic about? So, in this article, the writer concentrated on the higher education or university setting, and one especially important interaction in it is teacher-student relationship or TSR. Alright, so TSR research should be developed according to the writer because it is crucial for higher education research for at least 3 reasons. So there are 3 reasons why TSR so important or should be developed in higher education. So there are 3 reasons. The first is many universities around the world have high dropout rates resulting in high human and financial impacts. So this is stated from the US, or for example, see Schneider and Yin 2011. So TSR research is important if increasingly TSR can help to prevent this negative trend. So by TSR, it hopes that this negative trend can be disappear from the society. Alright. The second one is lectures are affected by the need to have. So, as a relational approach to teaching, it's likely that positive relational classroom environments, including positive interaction and connection, have positive effect on learners. And then thirdly, TSR needs detailed research including the quality, stability, and effect of social aspects such as TSR, which should be studied even more in context of its potential as a condition for competence in university teaching and learning. Yeah. So, previous study into the concept of TSR came from a variety of fields, including educational theory, psychology, and communication studies. And this study mainly focused on research in the fields of educational psychology. Alright, so there are the goal of the research. Yeah, the first is to review previous research on TSR in higher education and identify specific areas where scientific data is missing. And then the second one is Previous study into the concept of TSR came from a variety of fields, including educational theory, psychology, and communication studies. And then the third one is this study mainly focused on research in the fields of educational psychology. Alright, now we move on to the methodology of the research. So there are two stages to selecting relevant literature. First is a systematic search of selected database in the fields of education psychology and social science was done. This is from Eric Sindak and PsycInfo. And then the second one is a snowball approach. So a snowball approach was used, which include following up on multiple references by the study found in the original search. Alright. Yeah. So this article is divided into 4 stages after a general outline of the literature search methodology. So the writers start by talking about the quality of TSR in universities, and the second one is studies that have looked into the effects of TSR, and then so I'm sorry, yeah, in second stage there are studies that have looked into the effect of TSR, and then this is focusing on the effect of TSR and on students because scientific data on the teacher effect gets lower. And the third is the authors review scientific studies on TSR development and explain how interaction frequency and quality can influence the process. And then the fourth stage is the authors give a conceptual framework that includes the previews and suggest a study agenda for TSR in the future. Alright, so that's all about the methodology of TSR. And then we will next to the quality of TSR. The first we're gonna talk about conceptualization and operationalization difficulties. So many changes have occurred in the available literature. So this is due to the lack of a clearly defined conceptual or theoretical framework, which is the conceptual basis for the study. And then this fact causes studies or research that refers to the topic of TSR to be very different, making it difficult to analyze and draw comparisons. So, yeah, according to the writer, there are 3 main factors that influence the lack of conceptual related to the quality of TSR. Yeah, the first one is most studies do not consider TSR as an interest variable, but rather TSR is used as an explanatory or independent variable, among others, to explain student circumstance such as student motivation and dropout. And the second one is several studies that in fact focus on TSR as a variable of interest, especially qualitative ones, to provide useful insights such as teachers and students' view of positive or negative experience about TSR. This is state from Anderson and Cartavalsa 2002, and then in the other hand, that did not take this research to the next level. So the third one is in studies related to TSR, much of the literature focused on teacher-student or faculty-student interaction without describing the quality of TSR. So, Lamport 2013 states that the intensity of interaction is the main focus in several studies. On the other hand, Dobransky and Frymir 2004 and Komaraju Maskulin and Bhattacharya 2010 argue that the intensity of the interaction does not affect the quality of the SR, and several recent studies have attempted to assess the quality of the teacher-student interaction, but in fact, research remains limited on the quality of the SR. Alright, the next one we're gonna talk about accounting for the multidimensionality and context dependency of TSR. So, based on school research, TSR cannot be conceptualized as a one-dimensional construct, but rather as a multi-dimensional one. So, some research developed tools and comparison to assess the quality of TSR, which are mostly based on attachment theory and self-determination theory. So, attachment theory or AT is a theory that refers to attachment or relationship, whereas in self-determination theory or SDT, it is relationship is not the only factor at work, as a sense of connectedness is rated as one of the three basic psychological needs that influence human motivations. So, at AT or attachment theory has designed a different tools about TSR quality. One of the internationally recognized tools for assessing TSR is the teacher-student relationship scale. It is from Pianta 2001, which differentiates between the TSR dimensions of closeness, conflict, and dependence. Also, from SDT, the researcher, on the other hand, show the importance of interrelationship, take a multi-dimensional approach to TSR and commonly refer to AT when putting TSR construct into operation. It is stated from Ryan, Stiller, and Lynch, 1994. Alright. So the next is there are two additional factors that prevent the application of concept from TSR research on school in higher education. Yeah. The first is relates to the characteristic of the interaction and educational environment. So in other words, there is a difference between TSR in higher education and the school context, which has a direct impact on the quality or nature of TSR. For example, in higher education, the TSR consists of adults, whereas in the school context, relationships are formed between adults and children or adolescents. So, in addition, teaching at universities has less interaction between students and lecturers compared into teaching in a school context. And the second factor is about the specific dimension of TSR that decrease and increase over time. For example, the dimension of dependence is focused on young learners such as kindergarten and elementary schools, And then as a students age and become independent learners, the dependence dimension loses its roles. Alright, so based on the literature discussing on TSR, the authors note that there are two main dimensions that can be differentiated when illustrating TSR in higher education. The first one is the affective dimension, which describe the bond that is built between student and teacher from form a basic relationship that is safe and positively effective. And then the second one is the support dimension, which describe the support that must be provided through TSR for student success in at university. All right, and then we'll move on to the empirical findings on the quality of TSR. So in this section, the author review a number of empirical studies that address the two dimensions of TSR in higher education mentioned above. There are the affective and support dimensions. Yeah. Let's begin with affective dimensions. So, in the affective dimension, there are many different aspects of TSR, such as honesty, trust, and respect. And in addition, there is also caring for student, which is considered a humanistic value. And then in support dimension, according to the study, that is Irish University lecturer describe good relationship with student by using adjectives such as honest, respectful, trustworthy, safe, fair, encouraging, caring, and supportive. Alright, let's talk one by one. The first is affective dimension. Yeah. So, caring behavior in this literature, caring behavior in TSR in higher education has received little attention. So, as discussed earlier, that in higher education, TSR consists of adults, while in the school context, relationships are formed between adults and children or adolescents, and young students are much more dependent on their teachers at school and accepted from of relationship encouraging teachers intensive to care or look after dependent students. But on the other hand, according to Fitzmaurice 2008, showed that university lecture view caring as important. While some agree that student integration was beneficial for both teacher and student, some consider it unnecessary and dangerous. So, reporting that they didn't want to spoil students and students should be study independently without extra attention from the teacher. And then other fields caring other field caring for students at university is important. So, believing that a safe environment should be created with positive opportunities for interaction between students and teachers and among students. Alright, let's talk about support dimensions. So, also, according to yeah, the so alright, yeah. The first, I'm gonna talk about Fitzmaurice 2008 research And so Fitzmaurice research agree with Kamaraju et al. 2010 and meet the description of the quality of the TSR with the dimension of support. So, this study show that establishing connection and interaction is important for TSR. The researcher also point out that the interpersonal relationship between university students and teacher is considered as one that must be balanced. Balance. So based on CB 2010, that the teacher's role in TSR is a friendly individual but not a friend. Furthermore, mm, Holmes et al. 1999 argued that allowing relationship to become too close or informal can be risky for teacher and university students because of its hierarchical nature and unequal distribution of power. On the other hand, there are studies which state that students need support from their teacher to be successful in the classroom. So, there are another concept that is often discussed in higher education is the ability of teachers to be approachable. So, closeness is difficult to form both on the affective dimension and on the supportive dimension. This is because approachability itself can be considered as a multidimensional construction that requires conceptual clarifications. So, regarding the multimediational concept, the study of Denzi and Poulos 2000 group that group them into the categories of approachable and unapproachable. According to student views, approachable teachers have characteristics such as knowing students' names, greeting students on campus, smiling often, and showing warm and caring behavior. Meanwhile, I'm sorry. So, related to this, the writers see that teachers are illustrated as approachable when the teacher supports students in their study progress, and also when their teacher can be trusted and listen to their problems. Meanwhile, unapproachable has characteristics such as looking bored while teaching and missing office hours. So, I'm sorry. Yeah. Um, in summary, previous research showed that the SR can be described using various concepts such as closeness, caring, connection, security, trust, honesty, fairness, respect, openness, support, encouragement, availability, and approachability. Although these concepts are studied without a clear theoretic, sorry, I mean these concepts are studied without a clear theoretical basis. So the researchers still suggest that TSR in higher education should be conceptualized as a multidimensional construct. Alright, that's all about the quality of TSR. Now we'll move on to the consequence of TSR on students and teachers. So, Kuhlman and T 2011 argue that the relationship between TSR and teachers factor is under research in all education sector, although the several studies state that TSR is important for student success in university. So, this because of limitations regarding the effect of TSR on university teachers, the discussion of this study concentrates on activities examining the effect of TSR on students. Alright, here we go. There is TSR and university students. So, TSR is seen as a requirement for successful learning for all students, but in fact, it is risky for students in terms of dropping out decisions. So the study on TSR in university largely appear from the need to explain and prevent the dropout phenomena. And then according to Palmer, O'Kane, and Owens 2009 showed that the likelihood of staying at university is higher for students who develop a sense of belonging to the university, and if students fail to connect to the university and their subject of study for any reasons, dropouts often occur. So, on the other hand, Ramsey Jones and Barker 2007, and then Strauss and Folkwine 2004 suggested that peer relations are the most important for students' sense of belonging. In fact, teacher-student relationship also play an important role. Then positive university-teacher relationships are not only result in student dropout, but also produce of other factors such as commitment, effort, motivation, satisfaction, engagement, deep learning approaches, achievement, and intellectual development. Alright, that's all about the consequence of TSR. And then we will move on to the development of TSR based on interaction. So, studies on the development of TSR regarding interaction are still limited. There is state from Wilcox et al. 2005. And then, however, research in this context is essential to determine how the development of positive TSR can be developed with the aim of achieving positive outcomes for students and teachers and teaching quality. So in these sections, the writer discussed about the importance of teacher-student interaction as an antecedent of TSR. Yeah, next. So, Cotton and Wilson 2006 point out that interaction outside the classroom between students and lecturers are rare and are mostly focused on the tasks. Informal interaction before or after class were more common, but students reported that they never contact their teachers informally. In fact, time is becoming an increasingly important factor as higher education develops, so opportunities for personal communication with students are becoming increasingly scarce. And then another factor that has been shown to have an effect on the ease or difficulty of building relationship is space. For example, when the lecturer's office and study area are in separate buildings, and when the lecturer does not have an office due to being a part-time teacher, this can be hinder informal interaction. Also, this is state from Cotton and Wilson 2006. Yeah. So in the context of the SR, the result of research on the intensity of interaction are important because they indicate that it may be difficult to establish positive relationship when interaction are infrequent. However, Braxton, Milam, and Sulfam 2000 show that positive relationship can be formed not only through informal interaction but also in more formal classroom setting through the use of effective learning methods that support interaction in the classroom. Yeah, and now we at the end of my presentation, and then it is about discussion and conclusions. So the overall aim of this paper is to provide an overview of research related to TSR in higher education, and then this review has shown that TSR should be considered and constructed in higher education as well as it affects successful student learning progress, including factors such as course satisfaction, retention, learning approach, and achievement. It is also explained that the empirical basis is less clear and comprehensive in relation to the consequence of the SR for college teachers. However, it is likely that the SR also affect university teachers, for example, through the adoption of certain teaching practice, which in turn affect the quality of teaching. Alright, so there are a heuristic framework and possible agenda for future research on TSR in higher education. So this study identified three main areas for future research. So one involves conceptualizing and defining the multifaceted construct of the SR, while the other two discuss the antecedents and consequence of the SR. Yeah, so there are three. Yeah, the first is to develop a deeper understanding of the SR. One of the more pressing tasks is to increase the author research effort in reviewing the quality of TSR. So in this study, the author emphasized that TSR as a construct is considered not only as multidimensional, currently distinguished by two subordinate dimensions, affective and supportive, but also as a context-dependent dimension. The second one is the author suggests broadening the understanding of the consequence of the SR for students and especially for university teachers, and if the SR affect the quality of learning and teaching in higher education because of its effect on teachers and students, then it is an important agenda for research in higher education with direct implication for policy and practice. And the last one, a more comprehensive understanding of TSR development is essential. So, in particular, the relationship of situational interaction and their evaluation in terms of quality by the interaction involved deserve further investigations. So, in conclusions, the author argues that TSR in higher education is a significant and interesting topic for future research in the field. And then this type of research should be us better understand the elements that influence the quality of learning and teaching in higher education. This is state from Kraber and Carton 2000 and Trickwell and Shale 2004. So the next is one of the most challenging challenges will be to find a common theoretical and conceptual understanding of the SRS foundation for meaningful scientific communication, theorizing, and conceptualization as well as study designs. So that's all about my presentations about article summary. So I hope that what I have to say, you can get the point. So if you have any question, please contact me at email gitanandaprapudyachandra@gmail.com or in WhatsApp. So for the last, I'd like to say thank you for your attention. Thank you.